All right, well, for the new member we have in our group, so my name is Diana, and I'm gonna be talking about so I'm gonna be going about around the benefits that service dogs have on veterans with PTSD. So to begin, the official Veteran Affairs website reported that 61% of veterans sought healthcare from the VA between 2002 and 2015, most of whom were seeking care related to mental conditions that included PTSD. So unfortunately, it has been shown that veterans are less likely to seek help if it is related to a mental condition compared to a physical one. This means that there are many more that require help and that have yet to actually seek help. And it also is just a gateway for service dogs in a way that it can help them overcome PTSD, but also increase their overall happiness and contribution to society without them necessarily feeling vulnerable, like if they would have to go to therapy or actually meet a person, which is something that they obviously don't want to do. So for my speech, I'm only going to be going over what PTSD is, how the service dogs help combat the symptoms that come along with it, and a study that actually was conducted to prove how effective this is. So for my first visual, so I'm going to try to share my screen real quick. Okay. So for my first visual is actually from the COMS Bioscience. And let me see. All right, can you guys see it? Just one?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not really gonna go over too much detail because I don't want to just be reading off of this, but it's practically just emphasizing how PTSD affects veterans specifically. So nearly 300,000 veterans that returned from Iraq and Afghanistan currently have it. 2/3 of them also have major depression, and 17 veterans commit suicide every day in the United States, which if you actually add up how many days we have a year, then that's a pretty significant change. So you guys can see me again, right? Is it to me or is it showing my screen still?
I can see you.
Okay. All right. So what is PTSD exactly? So PTSD is a psychiatric disorder that can occur in people who have witnessed or experienced a traumatic event. Symptoms include flashbacks, social anxiety, loss of interest in things, and difficulty sleeping. So given that a lot of the symptoms involve loss of interest in things and depression, one of the benefits of service dogs is that they actually help tackle that. One way they do this is simply by interacting with one another. So the European Journal of Psychotraumatic published a study in 2018 that concluded that these introductions increased OxyContin in your body, which actually is a way to increase positive moods and decrease negative emotions. They also found out that by simply having the service dogs around them, that they decrease levels of anxiety, and they're actually able to calm the veterans down in an easier way when they did have flashbacks or panic attacks. So the second visual I'm going to show you is simply just two images that just show homeless veterans. So I'm not really gonna have this up for too long just because I don't want it to defeat the purpose of me speaking up here. But so practically in the image is published by Official Veterans Affairs as well, but it's specifically a website that works with San Diego healthcare system. So these images actually were taken by San Diego local people of veterans that are actually in the San Diego area. So I wanted to just add that to show that this issue is very much current and it's happening all around us, as well as to show that even though these homeless people aren't being registered service dogs, that they're actually going out of their way to get an emotional support animal that is normally a dog. So the service dogs not only help the veterans who struggle with PTSD work on themselves, but they also help them work on their social relationships. For example, if you have a dog, you obviously have to take care of it, you groom it, you feed it. And to some people, these are like simple tasks, or they think, why would a person with PTSD want their responsibility? But it actually helps them start to show that they're nurturing and that they're caring about something other than themselves. And the service dogs actually help them perform daily tasks, such as like reminding them to take their prescriptions or alerting them if they're going to have an anxiety attack or a flashback. By performing these services for the veterans, they not only begin to develop a routine daily, which decreases negative moods, but it also allows the veterans to feel confident and competent once again. And therefore, by becoming more nurturing, it allows the veterans to go out of their comfort zone, get out of the house, and create relationships with individuals, and possibly start to go to support group and ultimately just be able to transition back into society. So I'm not going to be talking about the study that proves the effectiveness of this. So in 2012, Dr. Esnera and Dr. Love published a study on the use of psychiatric service dogs in the treatment of PTSD. So this study was specifically for the US Army. So the US Army funded this in order for them to learn how to actually help veterans that get released that have PTSD. So the study focused mainly on the difference between veterans that did have service dogs and didn't and had PTSD. So they had two groups, one that did have them throughout the whole study and one that had the service dogs and the treatment plans towards the end of it, but not the beginning. And after they were able to conduct behavioral assessments and PTSD manifestations, the study concluded that almost with every symptom that they had, that the service dogs reported a decline in the system manifestation, which meant that they weren't seeing them as occur as much as they would without them. Whether it was a physical task, alert their veteran of a possible panic attack, or recognizing when they were sad or depressed, the service dogs were able to prove that with each symptom, as long as they understood the command or what was going on, they were able to assist, overall proving that they really do help improve their lives and improve the symptoms and the way that they're able to do their daily tasks and performances. In conclusion, there are many benefits that service dogs have on veterans, which include obviously performing those tasks and overcoming the barriers that come along with PTSD, and also just being able to socialize and creating a relationship with people and helping them contribute to society. To some, man's best friend is they're simply seen as another member of the family, but to veterans like this, they're seen as heroes, and they just help them get one step closer to finding themselves again. And that's all I have. Okay.
Yay.
Um,
Good
Well
job.
done.
I felt like more than, it felt like forever.
You did good. That was really good. I enjoyed it. I felt like your topic is really unique, and I think it's true. Like, I feel like dogs do have an emotional effect on you that you really don't notice, and some do take for granted. So your research was very interesting, and I enjoyed it. I think you did a really good job.
Do you have any feedback for me, like things that?
Just your movements, but I get like the nervousness, but I feel like you did really well. Like it showed that you practiced.
yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go next. Okay, so my name is Karima Bryce, and I'll be talking about sex trafficking. She says up to 30 men a day, 7 days a week for the best part of 4 years, 43,200, Romo 2017. This was a number that stayed in my head for a very long time after reading the article. It was a number of men that she had sex with in the 4 years that she was in sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is a type of human trafficking, and according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform commercial sex acts to the use of force, fraud, and coercion. Sex trafficking is a particularly degrading form of human trafficking, defined generally as recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining either an adult but for commercial sex by force, fraud, or coercion, or a juvenile for commercial sex regardless of the means. Massey, 2009. Today, I'm informing you about how people are brought into sex trafficking, the conditions they face when they are in, and ways we can identify sex trafficking around us. So the first visual aid I have is something I saw online, and it's a barcode that many traffickers will use for their victims, and it says, "I am not for sale." I think it fit perfectly with my speech because it's saying that things we buy in stores have barcodes, and human beings themselves shouldn't be something with a barcode on it. Traffickers are experts at finding those moments when people are vulnerable, of working the angles, of manipulating reality and leveraging fears. Polaris 2018. Traffickers will manipulate their victims by using their wants and needs and giving them love and attention, things that they've always wanted growing up. Traffickers get to know their victims and dangle that fantasy or dream that they've always wanted in front of them. They buy their victims expensive gifts to show them that they can take care of them and that they can love them more than they've gotten growing up. Many of the victims they choose come from income or poor backgrounds. So when the victims see that this person can give them that what they've always wanted, it makes them fall for them faster, which is what the traffickers want from the beginning. Many of these men and women also come from background of abuse. The traffickers see this and prey on them and promise them a better life or pretend to be someone that they can be in love with, a boyfriend or girlfriend. And that's how the trust begins. He romanced her quickly and smoothly. He surprised her at her job to say hello and learned her class schedule. His attention was absolute. Cardona, 2019. Sarah met a guy at a bar who began to show her a lot of attention, and it was something she's always wanted. She was in college and working a part-time job and wanted to go into modeling. When she met this guy, she fell in love with him, and as he started pulling that attention away, she wanted to do whatever she could to get that attention back. One day, he took her to a modeling job, which she soon found out was not a modeling job, and it was her first time of her long 6 months of sex trafficking. Another tactic that sex traffickers will use is the use of force. The use of force is not as common of a tactic, but it is still used by sex traffickers. Traffickers will use threats or violence to grab their victims, children, men, and women. They use restraints, weapons to pull them off of the street. Once they have their victims, they now use tactics to keep them, such as monitoring, physical assault, sexual assault, threatening to hurt them or their families. If the victims are illegal, they use threats of deportation to scare them, or telling the police of the illegal crimes that they have committed while being under the sex traffickers. So once these victims are trafficked, they face many conditions. Human Trafficking Hotline says residential brothels are typically informal underground businesses operating out of residential and non-commercial areas. According to dictionary.com, a brothel is a house of prostitution. Brothels are in houses, apartments, nail salons, many buildings around us. They are where the traffickers have their victims live and the buyers come. They have their victims lined up in a room or separate areas where the buyers come and go as they please. Brothels are run by people who are working with or for the trafficker. Their brothels are under constant surveillance and security so that the victims can't leave or can't escape. The Human Trafficking Hotline also says hotels and motels are a common venue for sex trafficking due to the ease of access for the buyers, the ability to pay in cash, and the maintain secrecy through finances and lack of facility maintenance and upkeep expenses. So sex trafficking also has a huge impact on the physical and mental well-being of the victims. Drowning in addiction, manipulation, and abuse, they feared the thought of breaking free. It was a daunting and equally terrifying and an unachievable task. Doll 20. The physiological impact of victimization may be more severe than the physical violence, 2012. Many of the victims that are under sex trafficking are exposed to sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancies, infections, or mutilations from the doctors who are supposed to be there to help them. Since the traffickers don't want to take their victims to clinics to get help or to get the abortions because of the questions that it would bring, they bring in doctors that come in and do it for them at the brothels or hotels, which the tools that they use aren't always clean, which causes the infections or the mutilations to the victims. They suffer from malnourishment and dental problems because they also don't have the access to those things. They go on to have substance abuse because of the drugs that the traffickers are giving them to be able to go that long with the sex trafficking that they have to do, and mental abuse problems such as PTSD because of the problems that they go through when they are what they've seen while they're doing sex trafficking. There are many ways to spot sex trafficking around you. The name of the man who brought her was tattooed on her body, doll 20. Some warning signs of people who are a part of sex trafficking are bruises, cuts, being overly tired or paranoid, not wanting to talk to people, unusual tattoos such as brandings on their bodies, the person they are with or controlling, there's normally a large age gap. That person may have multiple phones that you see of to keep in contact with the people and the buyers for the women or men that they have. If it's someone that you're familiar with, you'll start seeing behavioral changes. They start having expensive gifts or expensive clothing, things that they would have never had before. If their boyfriend or girlfriend can never explain their profession or where they have the income that they do. If the girl is having multiple pregnancies that end in multiple abortions, or if she's having a lot of STIs, is also another red flag. So my last visual aid I'll show you is from the Attorney General of Texas. And it just gives the reasons that I shared that they share for women and girls of reasons or red flags to look out for when being sex trafficked. Like I mentioned, the bruises and the brandings on their bodies. So the barcode is a normal branding that they see on sex trafficking victims because it shows that they are owned by somebody else. The multiple cell phones for the traffickers to keep in contact with their buyers. The victims are unable to make decisions. They'll look to their trafficker to answer for them if it's okay to answer the questions by the police or someone they're talking to. So I hope this informed you about the victims of trafficking, the things they have to deal with when they're under the care of the trafficker, and ways for you guys to spot trafficking around you. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Job.
Oh my goodness, good job. I think that's one of the most amazing speeches I could ever hear about. That's really, it hits home for me. And that's why I'm going to school for, is to do something in security. So that's amazing. Wow. And you did a good job presenting it as well. It seemed like you were really into it.
I just text you.
You studied
Well,
a lot.
Thank you.
Good
And a
job.
lot of information, and it's really good. I mean, I think that is a really like up and it's trending now, and it's unfortunate. So there was a lot of information and good for us to know whereabouts of just signs and signals of what's around us and to really be aware of our surroundings.
Yeah, I think that you really showed like how much like research you did on the project, and like that you're genuinely passionate about like making us actually understand like what the issue is with it. And I feel like everything and like the word choices you were using was like
guess
really
I'll
intriguing.
go next. All right. All right. So is that my internet or someone else's? Okay, so I'll start. So, hello, my name is Ariana, and I'm going to inform you guys a little bit about our marine problem. Plastic and straw pollution is highly affecting our marine life. And with our marine life being in critical condition, it can trickle a domino effect and will start to harm us humans. Just because we are not in direct contact and cannot visibly see the great scope of the harm that is being done, it does not mean that it isn't there. What exactly plastic is doing to our marine life, you may ask? Here's a little intel just so you guys can start to get a little visual impact. For every pound of tuna that we take out of our ocean, we're putting 2 pounds of plastic into our ocean. So to bring an awareness into that, you can kind of put into scope of what exactly a figurative amount of plastic per fish is occurring. One thing is that plastic is rapidly increasing and is highly visible component of our ocean pollution. Plastic waste ends up on our beaches and our oceans, parks, streets, and all because of improper disposal. That being littering. Littering ultimately ends up in our oceans. And just speaking of numbers and through research and scientists, an estimate of using trash collected on the US coastlines during cleanups over the last 5 years, there are nearly 7.5 million plastic straws lying around America's shorelines. This figure means around 437 million to 8.3 billion plastic straws are in the entire world's coastline. The University of Georgia's environmental engineer, Professor Jenna Jambrick, calculates that nearly 9 million tons end up in the world's oceans, coastlines each year as of 2010, according to her 2015 study in the journal Science. Each year, there's more than 35 million tons of plastic products will potentially pollute and produce around the earth. And that's about a quarter that ends up in our waters. All of this information is just coastline pollution. And just keep in mind that in our world studies, there's still over 80% of the ocean that has not been discovered. So that's truly only coastline pollution. We still don't know exactly what is more in depth in our ocean that is continuously coasting. With all that plastic and pollution being in our ocean, what exactly is happening to our marine life, you may ask? Animals are being affected, and that plastic is endangering the ecosystem. The plastic is killing our animals off. Our sea turtles, we have sea turtles that have straws and dirge in them, getting caught in plastic rings and cutting off their circulation and end up ultimately choking to death. Seabirds can ingest as much as 8% of their body weight in plastic, which for humans is roughly around the equivalence of an average woman having the weight of 2 babies in her stomach. So 8% of a human weight, depending on your weight, you can roughly have over 14 pounds of plastic in your stomach. So just envision that for an animal. Plastic pollution threatens marine mammals, fish, and seabirds, and it breaks down to microplastic and nanoplastic particles containing chemicals. And those chemicals enter the tissues of the marine animal. And us as humans, we eat marine animals as well, fish. The fish are dying and ingesting plastic, and then we are consuming them. And those chemicals are being consumed by us, which ultimately can endanger and have a potential effect on us. The chemical that is being submerged through the plastic in the seawater is our polychloride PCB and metals. Those chemicals are being infused into the seawater, which is being consumed by our marine animals that we potentially digest. Ocean pollution is an important but insufficiently recognized and inadequately controlled component of global pollution. It possesses a serious threat to human health and well-being. The nature and magnitude of these impacts are barely beginning to be understood and brought to light. What can we do, you may ask? What would be the next step to help save our animals and our future for generations to come? One thing we can do is start being proactive, be an advocate for our local community, start being really, really aware of where we're disposing our trash. Try not to litter, have a group, be proactive in cleaning up our beaches, as well as reducing the plastic use, getting rid of straws, one-time plastic bottles, end with them. Try to focus more with the sustainable lifestyle to save our animals, our oceans, just to have a prettier outcome of our life. I tried to share, but my visuals, it says host disabled screen sharing. I had a little PowerPoint, so we'll have to figure that out, or I'll print out some images, but that's my speech.
Well done, you.
Good job.
Very nervous.
Yeah, you did great, though. I think I like that you talked about the plastics and about the 2 pounds, and I think it's definitely a big problem in the whole world. Did you watch the documentary on Netflix about that?
Yes. I'm very big in trying to keep a sustainable life. So I try to be proactive as much as I can with recycling.
Good job.
So who wants to go next? Do you want me to go, or do you want to go? I don't want to say your name incorrectly. Is it just safe? Hello? Sorry.
Jaciel.
What is it? How do you say it?
Jaciel.
Oh, sorry. Would you like to go next, or do you want me to go next? It's up to you.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. I can go next if you want to.
Okay, you can. Go for it.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Jonathan, but I go by Jaciel. I'm gonna talk about drug addiction, and just like I'm gonna need a lot of feedback. This is my first pitch. I missed the last one because I just crashed the class not long ago. So, one second. So I'm gonna talk about drug addiction. The specific purpose for my speech is to make society and my peers know how drug addiction affects people, like not like trying to be hard on other people, but like it's a disease and not a choice. Like I'm talking about like out of personal experience. So I want to let people know, and I want people to get a knowledge about how serious and dangerous it is for the community, and how unconsciously we're like making people to get addicted to drugs. So basically, drug addiction is one of the highest problems in the United States. Um, Around 750,000 people die every year. So nearly 87 of drug addicts don't shoot. It's not like they, obviously everyone has a choice, right? But like most of the people get dependent on drugs based on an accident or depression. So um, like in my personal experience, um, I I got like dependent on drugs because of depression, right? Um, so it was like a way to not deal with feelings. So most of the people, that's what they do. Um, I actually well, I went to rehab a few times, so I just like took like a time to like just ask some questions to people that I've met in there. And well, basically it's like either because they have an accident, like it was this guy, he got an accident, he had an accident, sorry, um playing soccer, and he got like a bone, like a he broke his leg or something like that, and he got dependent to I don't remember exactly the name of the medication. And times he got like, the doctor just like stopped the prescription. That's when he started using heroin. um Drug addiction has long been and still is a topical issue around the world. There's different reasons why people get addicted, like I just said, and different levels which people become dependent on drugs. Some people start taking them because of curiosity, others just to improve their athletic performance, other people just to stay awake, and that it was kind of, I got surprised. Like a lot of people just get into drugs just to fit in, like getting getting like, if my friend is doing it, I'm gonna do it. So it was like it was kind of interesting. I have a I was working on a PowerPoint. Let me share my screen. Um, so, so the most common reasons why people become addict is either depression, accident, or medication, peer pressure, and stress. Stress is a big thing. So depression, a lot of people, mostly teenagers, get involved with drugs when they're depressed, using addiction as an excuse to not deal with emotions or reality. That's what happened to me. Accident, like big part of the addiction become because by narcotics or painkillers are prescribed to people and they became dependent on them. So when the doctors just caught it, it's just like hard for them. Um, So I think all of them become with some kind of hold on. I don't know how to stop sharing. Oh yeah. So basically, what I got out of when I was like looking for information and all that, 100% apparently of the addicts, they're like dealing or struggling with some mental issues, some kind of depression and things like that. So in my opinion, it's just like I saw that before. Like I we walked by the street and we saw these homeless people and they're asking for money, and we just, and at least like a few times I think like that, like, oh, it's he's asking for money for drugs, right? But like I met people who is like doctors, or they're professional and they're drug addicts too, you know, like, and it's the same thing, but as society, we just like put this stereotype about drug addicts instead of like being helping them. Um, I I saw like a lot of programs that they help people like that, but sadly we cannot help people if they don't want to get help. You know what I mean? So I'm still trying to get a lot of information and trying to get people to like talk about their experiences, but like I said, like I missed like a lot of the class, so I'm trying to get on board. You know, it's all that I got right now.
Wow.
Good job.
Good job. It was very a rough outline. And I think just because you did join, so your PowerPoint, I feel like if you don't show that and just kind of read what you have and be more confident and informative, don't try to be like, well, no, like tell us, be very informative. Like you're telling us, you're not trying to convince us. So don't try and be like, you have your personal experience, which is good. So a lot of the information you can retain and even put into your personal what you experience, but it's more informing us. Don't second guess yourself. You want to be a little bit more confident, and then put more maybe statistics, pictures in your PowerPoint. Maybe don't have what you're gonna be writing, what you wrote, use that as your speech. I wouldn't put it on the PowerPoint. I would relay your PowerPoint mainly like pictures, like show us, give us like demographics, statistics, and just inform. That would be mine. But other than that, I mean, I think you're on the right track, and maybe just because you did start late, but definitely a rough outline. So then that can put you in the right direction.
All right, guys, before, I don't think it's gonna end the Zoom meeting just because it has that time limit. So I don't think it's gonna end it. So we're gonna try to just like push through. I don't know if it's gonna actually like hit
Are
that.
we over the 40 minutes?
It doesn't time it, that's the thing. So
So I'll be quick. Do you want me to be quick then?
you don't have to be quick.
Yeah,
well,
just go.
it hasn't ended it and it's 10:10, so I think you should be good.
And then I want to
Okay,
come
cool.
back. I don't know how you shared your screen because I wasn't able to.
Well, I ended up moving it and I put like more.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know I had to change that. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay. So that's fine. So then next time I can be.
Yeah, I'll
Perfect.
just have that on. Okay, cool. So at least we know that the Zoom meeting is not gonna end itself. But yeah, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry guys, mine's not very serious topic like everyone else's. Sorry. This is my first PowerPoint. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's people traveling. So I don't know if you guys traveled during the pandemic or if the information overload was too much for everybody, because I think that the amount of information out there is extremely annoying, and you can't go to one website. There's no centralized information for travel, whether it's internationally or domestic. For me, and because I'm in the travel industry, this one is a big subject for me. Not as serious as some of the other subjects, but when you're trying to travel internationally and you go to LAX and you've been on the flylax.com website and it says that you can just go there and take a PCR test in 1 hour. Well, you get there and you find out that you have to make an appointment and there's none available today, but there could be one at 4 hours from now, but you have to walk another 2 terminals away to get it, or for 24 hours, but that's on the other side of the airport still. So my presentation today is over PCR testing versus antigen testing in the travel industry and why it is important. and what a PCR test is, and the process of getting one. So PCR test is a polymerase chain reaction. It's a method of detecting the virus that causes the COVID-19 through a molecular analysis of a sample since February of 2020. We've been using this one versus the antigen for travel because it's more sensitive and can detect the virus better than the antigen test. If you're traveling within the United States, the antigen test is fine for interstate, unless you're going to Hawaii, which you need a specific PCR test. And whoever gives you that test has to specifically print out a form or a certificate that says for Hawaii travel only, and it's typically around $250. So you would have to add that to your cost of your vacation. People still should travel, and I think they're fearful of for lots of reasons. They're afraid that they can catch the virus. They're afraid they can bring it to a parent. They're afraid that they might get a false negative or they might catch it on the flight. There's plenty of reasons people would be afraid to travel now. But since 2019, when travel was sort of normal, IATA, which is an international, sorry, wrote it down so I could tell you guys. IATA is the international travel company that keeps data on travel, and travel industry has been down 85% since 2019, which is a big number. And if you're somebody who lives off of that like I do, then you've been affected pretty big. You've lost lots of family and friends to the industry, and everybody's lives have been turned upside down. So since the pandemic began, travel has been, like I said, 85% down internationally. Domestically, it's all different per country based on how strict the rules are and how severe the outbreak is. A PCR test versus an antigen test. International and island travel require PCR tests, and they will not take an antigen test. So if you're going to go anywhere internationally, you do have to have a PCR test with a validity of 72 hours or less. And because it's a more accurate diagnosis. Let's see, incubation period for COVID is 2 to 14 days. So for me, it doesn't make much sense why they would choose 72 hours, except that it's kind of in the middle. So you're not going to catch everybody. Some people are going to be on the airplane that are going to be infected, period. There's no way around it. Let's see. At the moment, if you're vaccinated with Pfizer, you can go to certain countries, but not all countries will recognize your vaccination. So for myself to go to Hawaii, because I was vaccinated in the UAE, Hawaii doesn't actually notice Pfizer, even though it's a World Health Organization vaccination. So if I get my vaccination through the mainland US, I can go to Hawaii, but if I get it through anybody else besides the US, I cannot. Likewise, going to Europe, they don't recognize the UAE, and in November, they will recognize the United States, but not until November will they recognize each other. Also, they don't recognize other vaccines like China, Russia, and certain other countries. So when you do travel, the biggest thing I'm trying to make everyone see is that the process is a little bit sporadic. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no specific website. There's no go to. Every state, every country, and every airline have different information. So you're going to have to research really well before you decide to take your trip. You can go to SchengenVisaInformation.com for anything in Europe. You can go to travel.hawaii.gov for Hawaii travel. You can go to state.gov for the United States. And you can go to flylax.com for specific from LAX. Each country, like I said, has their own rules. So good luck. And I hope that I've helped some of you guys and that you can get your information from sources other than just family members, magazines, and TV. Really do your research and do travel, because it's really nice to travel when there's nobody else on the airplane. And your vacation deals are insanely cheap right now. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Good job.
So the
Thanks.
only thing I would say is maybe when you're explaining the PCR and the antigen, me, because I do work in the healthcare field, maybe explain how they test, because I know the antigen is just the rim of your nose, where your PCR is the more in depth. So maybe
Okay.
just explain the differences so that we can know more. And then just how you said that, that's true. I actually heard about that too, how certain countries and certain areas are accepting only certain vaccines. So I think that was a good topic because it's true. Traveling wise, you do have to realize and check where you're going and what vaccine is accepted and the outcome of everything. So I think your topic was important. I don't think you should self-doubt yourself. It was very informational, and yeah, just getting it more wrapped up. This is just an outline, and I think you did a good job.
Thanks.
Anyone else? I think you're muted, Diana.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I said that I think that your topic was actually really intriguing to me because it's something that I have like very little information about. And like you said, like it's something that affects people that travel a lot. And me, I'm like barely getting into that. So I think it was like good in a sense where your audience could be people who either travel a lot or who are interested in traveling, which I feel like everybody is. So I feel like it was definitely a good topic. And I feel like you definitely seem more confident than the last time that you presented. So I think like
Yeah.
it was like a big step up, and like you could just see like that you're passionate about this topic, and I really liked it.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have like any other feedback to give anybody? That way we can close this out and submit it. And don't forget that we have to do the little rubrics and submit those too.
We have to what? I'm
We have
sorry.
to
The
do
close.
what?
A rubric? What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
just score each other.
yeah, you have
Oh.
to like, practically.
What?
The little rubric that we're supposed to use to score each other on the real one, we have to like do for this one as well and submit it.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't know what is that. Or where.
if you go to where it says to submit the video for this one for the practice speech, it'll have a little blue thing that says see rubric. You click on that and it'll be like a PDF that shows you like what you're supposed to grade everybody on.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
okay.
All right, and then obviously if you guys have any questions, text the group chat. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.